In this video, I'm going over my process for printing multiple art reference photos. Hi, I'm John with SharpenedArtist.com, and this video is another in the series of videos on Pro Tips. This is a workbook that I created for you, and there's a link in the video description below, so if you want to go ahead and click that link, download the workbook. It's totally free. Get it, print it out, do whatever you like with it. And in this video, I'm going over one of the pro tips that I've included inside that workbook, and that is printing multiple reference photos. Why should you print multiple reference photos? Well, the first reason is because you want to be able to see your subject matter so well that you want to have more than one look to the photo reference that you're using. And so one will be the exact exposure level that you want. The second one that I like to use and work from is a lighter reference photo, and then the last one is a darker one or an underexposed reference photo. And so I have three typically. I have the exact, the lighter, and the darker. And so I've done that on this current commission that I'm working on right here on this shed. This is the photo that I'm using to create the artwork from, and I want it to look like this at the end. Now, I print mine in black and white. You can do whatever you like. It just seems like typically lately what I've been doing is trying to get the values first. And so that's what I've been doing lately on art projects that I'm working on. So this is the exact level of exposure. This one's a little lighter, and you notice that I zoomed out a little bit more because I don't need to see every single thing. I'm trying to find the darkest values, and so that's the reason for the light copy. And then the last one is an underexposed or a darker depiction of the subject matter. And in this one in particular, what that does is it affords me the opportunity to see within those shaded areas. In the shadows, I can actually see quite a bit of detail. And I've zoomed in quite a bit more because I want to see in there so well. Another thing you can do in your post-editing program before you ever print out any of these reference photos is you can play around with the exposure level. We had underexposed, exact correct exposure, and then overexposed. But what you want to do is you want to also play around with the saturation, and you want to play around with the contrast. You want to look at the different colors that you can play around with, different levels of so many different things. If you got a lot of noise in your photo, then you want to play around with the luminance level. The other thing that I try to do is I want to put it in an HDR effect or high dynamic range because I want to be able to see inside the shadowed areas, and that allows you to do that. It allows those shadows to be more revealing and to see more detail in those areas. It also can play around with, in the HDR settings, you can tone down, you can pull down the overexposed areas where it washes out any of the detail and you're only left with highlights or white. And so that's a very helpful thing to do as well. So one last thing that I like to do is I like to put it on a tablet or notebook. In this case, I'm just using a Chromebook, but I've got it pulled up here and I've got it in full color, the way that I want mine to eventually sort of look. And I can zoom in at will and decide exactly what I want this to look like. So it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. You can get just a Chromebook, something cheap, something that you can just have beside you while you're creating on a stand like I've got here, or whatever you want to do. But it's a very easy and effective way of being able to see your reference all the time and to look at little areas, especially when you get down to the end of your project. So I hope this was helpful. Again, if you're interested in grabbing the entire workbook and you don't want to wait for this video series, then go ahead and do that. The link is in the video description below, and I'll have another video tip for you next time. So until then, stay sharp.